This week on Connecticut, power and politics got the need for weed. Governor Lamont's new budget goes green. Shock value, shocking images at President Trump's impeachment trial. But will it sway undecided senators? And hair protection, a move to stop discrimination based on hairstyles. This is Connecticut, Power and Politics. Welcome to Power and Politics, our weekly deep dive into what's making news in Connecticut and who's making news. I'm John Craven.
I've always said we don't need more taxes, we need more taxpayers.
Governor Lamont making good on his promise this week, no major tax hikes in his latest budget. Instead, he's relying on money from Washington and the state's rainy day fund. It's a lean budget for lean times. With COVID still raging, Governor Lamont is pitching a cautious budget, but also one that makes big changes.
We don't have the luxury of doing one thing at a time. There's too much at stake.
Marijuana sales would finally be legal beginning next May 2022, although towns could ban sales. Pot could be pricey. It could be taxed as high as 18%. And prior criminal convictions would be wiped clean. Governor Lamont also moving forward with online and sports betting, although he still hasn't reached a deal with the state's 2 casinos to offer it. Lamont is proposing no new taxes, but tax breaks are on hold for businesses and retired teachers. There's no new money for hard-hit nonprofits, but cities and towns will get extra help. So will local schools, but mostly because of COVID relief money from Washington. Republicans are unimpressed.
What I don't see in this budget is the bold new proposals that we need to get out of this pandemic.
Tolls are not on the table, but tractor trailers would have to pay a mileage fee starting in 2023.
It's a toll of a different color in the sense that, you know, instead of tolling cars as they ride on 95, it's now looking at kind of the same argument.
The difference, I would say, is that obviously there was considerable concern about truck tolls becoming car tolls. And this is not a tolling package. This is a highway use fee.
That was Governor Lamont's budget director. Paul Mounds is the governor's chief of staff. He says it's time to finally legalize marijuana.
We see what's going on in Massachusetts. We saw the referendum happen in New Jersey. The governor and his first meeting with Governor Cuomo about a few years ago was the discussion about the legalization of marijuana and what that means for the region.
I mean, we've been talking about this for years, and even top lawmakers aren't sure it can pass this year.
But I said 50-50 a month ago, and I still think maybe it's 54-46, but it's going to be a close vote.
How do you handicap the chances?
I think first and foremost, the governor has put his marker down and really set the line in saying that he feels that it's important that it pass for the state of Connecticut. It hasn't been done like that before. But when the governor says that and puts that in his budget, it means that it's a priority.
So Governor Lamont also wants to legalize sports betting and online gaming.
Our neighboring states are moving forward with sports betting and iGaming, and Connecticut should not leave these opportunities for other states to benefit from our inaction.
But that requires a deal with the state's 2 casinos. We don't have a deal yet, or do we?
I would say this, we have been in ongoing negotiations with both of our tribal nations here in Connecticut.
Does this give the tribes exclusive access to gaming, because that's what they're demanding?
Well, as you said, I have been the point person as it deals with negotiations. Thus, I'm not going to negotiate through these means. We're going to negotiate at the table.
I mean, if you do a deal with the tribes, you know that parties like Sport Tech, which run the off-track betting parlors like Bobby V's in Stamford, they're promising to sue. Is the state prepared for that risk?
I would say we're prepared to make sure that we move forward with the best agreement that's best for the state of Connecticut.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying that the state would be willing to shoulder a lawsuit if that's what it comes to.
Well, thanks for not putting words in my mouth. I would say that the key for the state is with any policy that the governor's put forth is what's best for the state of Connecticut.
All right, let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, taxes. Governor Lamont says no major tax hikes this year.
My budget achieves this without broad-based tax increases, reducing municipal aid, or cutting any existing services.
That's in spite of calls from your own party to raise taxes on the wealthy. Why not make them pay more?
We just feel that at this time, we're not going to lead with taxes. We're going to utilize what a rainy day fund is for. We're going to utilize the federal funding that's coming down the pike.
But, you know, the wealthy, especially the ultra wealthy, they've done really well during this pandemic. I mean, the stock market is booming and a lot of them are not hurting.
I would say, yeah, there have been those who have been be able to get the benefits as it deals with the stock market, which is a very volatile market. We're just not going to lead with taxes. And I know that we have many of those within the legislature that feels otherwise. But at the end of the day, the governor is the one who's going to have to sign the budget into law. And that's going to be his first mindset and his first line. Is this a budget that is representative of taxes?
So, Paul, let's talk about the numbers. The governor says this budget is designed to meet the moment.
Our budget is much more than a list of expenditures and revenues. Rather, it's a reflection of our shared values.
Critics say this is too cautious and it relies too much on that 1 or 2 time money from Washington. Is this budget too cautious?
No, not at all. It protects our nonprofits. It gives above and beyond funding for our municipalities. It expands workforce that has never been seen in our state before.
So I want to talk about transportation. Last year, you had to abandon tolls on trucks because not even enough Democrats supported it. This year, the plan is what we're calling a mileage fee on tractor trailers. The trucking industry says the workers in an industry that he himself declared essential have been among the heroes of the COVID pandemic, bringing vaccines, medications, hospital equipment, and groceries all over the state. Now the governor wants to reward them by assessing a discriminatory new tax. I gotta say though, it kind of looks like, well, we couldn't get tolls passed this year, so let's try this thing now.
Well, I'll say this. The Special Transportation Fund is important that it is solvent so we can be able to have the infrastructure improvements necessary for the state of Connecticut. We are having trucks that are going through our state and causing damage, and it's being left to the everyday person to actually have to be the one to subsidize it.
You're also paying for roads and climate change projects by joining what's called TCI.
Yes.
This is a regional compact that essentially makes wholesale gas suppliers pay to pollute. The idea is to push the market towards cleaner energy.
Correct.
But it could also lead to higher gas prices.
We're going to also have a gas tax. You know, once again, the gas tax is another aggressive tax that's going to hit the middle class and people with lower hourly wage jobs.
You've heard this argument. Is this essentially a gas tax?
No, it's not. It's not just essentially a gas tax. This is a regional compact in which we'll be able to put a strong focus on a sector that is one of the largest polluters overall.
All right, let's end this on a high note. Governor Lamont calls this the Connecticut comeback. Take me out 2 years from now. What do you see? Best case scenario.
2 years from now, we're gonna defeat COVID head on, first and foremost. We're also going to see that our children are going to have a full encompassing education that's going to decrease the overall disparities when it comes to education in the state of Connecticut. You're going to see a state that will have a robust transportation plan that will have projects and construction from the northeast corner all the way down to the Fairfield County. But more importantly, you're going to have a Connecticut that's going to feel confident in their leadership of the executive branch, and they're going to feel confident to say that they're a resident of the state of Connecticut. That's part of the Connecticut comeback.
By the way, state lawmakers have to pass a new budget by June 9th. All right, stick around. Next, dramatic images in Donald Trump's impeachment trial. But will they make a difference? Our expert panel weighs in. Welcome back to Power and Politics. I'm John Craven.
On January 6th, President Trump left everyone in this Capitol for dead.
Former President Trump's impeachment trial got underway this week. House managers presented never-before-seen video of Vice President Mike Pence narrowly escaping an angry mob. Trump's attorneys say he never explicitly told rioters to storm the Capitol, but their defense was often rambling.
I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done.
Here to break it all down today, we have got an expert panel. We have Robert Sanders with University of New Haven. We've got Gary Rose with Sacred Heart University and John Pavia with Quinnipiac School of Law, who also was on the Bush v. Gore legal team back in the year 2000. So gentlemen, the Democrats started off this prosecution, if you will, with a really graphic video. This video showed just how terrifying things were at the Capitol the day of the riots.
She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol."
You think that changed any minds?
From a tactical standpoint, it was awesome. You know, no matter what you think about Donald Trump, this impeachment, starting off with something that's impactful is what you would do in a trial, especially in a criminal prosecution.
At the same time, though, I don't think that the video itself is going to move that many more Republican senators to join the Democrats.
Do you guys think this was more of a made-for-TV impeachment?
Well, I'd like to say to both your questions, the Democrats started on a dual path. One was to try to persuade some of the Republican senators to move to their side, but also to tell the public the story.
Now, by contrast, President Trump's legal team came out and gave what is probably best described as a rambling, disjointed defense.
So that's nobody says it that plainly, but unfortunately I have a way of speaking that way.
And I agree with that. It was rambling. It never seemed to have any particular focus. I was trying to figure out exactly what the message was.
They went in to make a constitutional argument where there wasn't one. And they tried to bring in utter nonsense and got confused in their own nonsense.
One thing on this point, because I think it's important. You know, I think what Trump is if I was his attorneys, you know, we all know what's going to happen, right? They're going to try this case in the Senate. They're not going to get the votes to convict him. But let's just say they did. I think what he's doing is, and what they were trying to do, but I don't think they did it well, is trying to set this up for an appeal. And remember what this issue really is controlled by, and the issue of, can you impeach a president who's already left? It's all going to come down to the words in the Constitution. And this whole thing of, is it a political question that the courts have no business having an opinion on, and they have no jurisdiction over, or does the text of the Constitution itself really decide the issue?
I want to touch on the former president's other big argument, which is free speech.
And we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Let's have trial by combat. If you're going to be the zero and not the hero, we're coming for you. Have some backbone, show some fight, learn from Donald Trump. We need to march on the Capitol today.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
Was the president's call to fight really a call to go storm the Capitol? I guess that's really the question here.
Well, was it a call to stop the proceedings? That's the key point there. And he wanted the proceedings to be stopped.
We've all been asked this question. You know, would he be convicted if he was indicted and tried in a court of law for inciting a riot. He probably wouldn't. But I think it'd be a very interesting discussion if the three of us were sitting around, and you were the DA and you're like, John, you want to try this case? And I'd be like, I don't know, Gary, you want to try the case? Because it's going to be a hard case to prove. And the odds are you're probably not going to get a conviction. And, then do you want to be the guy who didn't get a conviction against prosecuting the president? I wouldn't want to. I'd give it to Gary and say, Gary, you try the case.
Gary, you want to try this case?
Well, in preparation for today's meeting, I thought last night I would call up the president's speech. I just do not see the words of incitement in that speech. I read the words of a president who said, march on the Capitol in a peaceful manner and show your patriotism. I mean, the word peaceful is not the words of incitement. He did say fight like hell, but that can actually be interpreted multiple ways. And we also know that many of these people that stormed the Capitol had it planned actually before the speech.
Well, Gary, you and John are right. This isn't a criminal proceeding. This is a political one. So let's talk about the political ramifications here.
If I'm Biden, I think I'm of the opinion of, all right, guys, you're going to do this, be done by Saturday or be done by Sunday, Monday at the latest. Don't call witnesses. Don't drag this on.
Politically, I think it's wise what the Democrats are doing. What they are attempting to do here is to portray Trump voters and certainly the Republican Party more broadly as insurrectionists. And so politically, I can understand what they're doing.
Americans want accountability. The last 3 weeks of your presidential activity is a crime. You get to walk away scot-free? And I don't think so.
It seems like the end goal, at least for a lot of Democrats, is to keep Trump from running for office again.
Obviously, they're going to try to do that. Will they succeed? No, they will not, because there's not going to be a conviction, so there will be no vote.
I don't think they want to convict him. And I think it's very Machiavellian, but I think as Nancy Pelosi is sitting there and Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I think they definitely actually like the idea of Donald Trump being around, and he's a problem for the Republican Party in 4 years from now.
Yeah, I would define Donald Trump as an uncontrolled arsonist inside the Republican Party. And you just don't know what fire he's going to start or where he's going to start it, and if he's going to burn down the whole building. The Democrats truly like that idea, but what if the fire doesn't catch and he actually does get a crowd? That's problematic.
House managers spent 2 full days making their case against Donald Trump. They wrapped up on Thursday. All right, much more Power in Politics coming up. Next, a push to end discrimination based on hair. Welcome back to Power in Politics. I'm John Craven. Black women say they often face discrimination based on their hairstyle, but a new bill in Hartford would ban the practice. News 12 Connecticut's Karen Pinto tells us about the Crown Act.
Sister-owned hair salon Hair It Is in Norwalk has been helping people feel beautiful in and out of the chair for 25 years. Co-owner Fern Speller says the majority of her clients have talked to her about discrimination about their natural hair in the workplace.
It's so unfair, it's sad, it's discrimination, very much so.
Speller says she believes in the power of the Crown Act because the Black community should be able to wear their hair naturally.
You should be able to embrace your beauty. Your hair is your crown, glory, and beauty.
That's exactly what State Representative Robin Porter and State Senator Julie Kushner are working on with the Crown Act, a bill created for a respectful and open world for natural hair.
We cannot say that we're attempting to deal with systemic racism if we don't deal with these equity issues on every platform, on every front.
They joined members from the YWCA who are helping to galvanize the community to support the push for this legislation.
Too many Black women have been forced to conform to certain hairstyles that made others comfortable and not necessarily themselves.
The bill also protects against discrimination of Black boys and girls in school, like 13-year-old Christina Jackson, a youth ambassador for the YWCA.
I am a proud young woman of color who is full of Black girl magic passed on to me from a long line of freedom and equity fighters. I am currently wearing the crown I was born with.
The Crown Act will help keep it that way. Karen Pinto, News 12, Connecticut.
State lawmakers held a public hearing on the Crown Act this week. Next, a committee will decide whether to send it onto the full General Assembly. All right, that's all of our time for this week. We want to hear from you. Email us or comment at news12.com or our social media platforms. And you can catch Power in Politics every Saturday and Sunday at the times there on your screen. That's all of our time. I'm John Craven. Thanks for watching and have a great week.